Good afternoon, everybody. It's 12:25. This is February the 4th, 2021. There's a video clip that I want to play for you. This is not hearsay. This is what they want to do to us, to your family, to your children, and your children's children. But before I play it, I would just like to say that Bill Gates has just bought up most of the farmlands in the United States of America. So prepare yourself for great farming and plenty GM food. Also, China last month has rolled out their factory meats, the meats that they grow in labs, and it will soon be coming near you. So here we go. These are some of the things that they have planned for us all, for all of us. Trying to get it to play. Let's see. Okay.
Now, if we consider our discussion, King of the North against King of the South, we have two ideologies clashing here.
Yes.
But we also read that fascinating verse they sit at.
It's the same table.
And they sit at the same table. And this is always interesting to me. So, conspiracy theory or no conspiracy theory, what does the Bible say and where is all of this heading? Let us go to that web page from the World Economic Forum and see what they have to say. Now, this is not conspiracy.
No.
This is their web page.
Yes.
Where do they want to take humanity? Whether they are successful in this, whether this is a conjecture or a hope, whether this is going to be a reality, that's not our place here, right?
No.
This is not conspiracy for all those who want to shout conspiracy. This is a fact. Now, we went through this web page in some detail, right?
You can get lost and continue for a long time on this web page, especially this integrated map
Yes.
that they've got there on the COVID-19. They call it the COVID-19 transformation map.
Now, this map is very interesting, and there are so many cross links that you can go to. And we looked at them, and they're fascinating.
Yes.
Now, with my old eyes, I can hardly see what's on the screen there because there's so much information. So, would you run us through it?
If you get to the transformation map, this is the first thing you'll see. Right around this whole map, there's different headlines. Now, this is unfortunately not going to be integrated now because this is just a slide. So then if you go and you press, for instance, you click on there, it opens up a whole map of blue lines that links different headlines. And then you can go and click on the headline again and see all this. If you go on each one, probably if you are a subscriber to this, then you can get all the information going.
More detail.
Yeah, so we didn't do that, but we can still show you enough. On that map, you'll see different headlines here as well. And what was interesting is this find a vaccine one. If you click that, then it shows you the different maps. And then they have a description here of it. And we're not going to go through all of this. I just want to show what was interesting if you just follow a few of these mapping.
So this is their master plan.
Yes.
This is where they're heading.
And all of this is, you can also see this is not a website or a map that's been thought up overnight.
No, there's a lot of detail.
There's a lot of information in here.
A lot of detail.
But they also tell you where they get the information, which sometimes it's universities and all sorts of very prominent sources. So then if you go then on that one, we clicked on that one, biotechnology. So it opens it up like this then. And then under biotechnology, there's these headings, and just look at these interesting headlines. Gene and genome engineering.
Yes.
And
Medical biotechnology.
yes.
Environmental biotechnology, agricultural biotechnology, industrial biotechnology.
And then under this one, it opens the map and it goes to global health. And then this one was very interesting. Human enhancement.
Yes, to enhance the human being.
Yes. So we'll go to that in a moment. But first, I want to go to the gene and genome engineering. And there was also an interesting one here called space. And under the space, there's space conflict. Now, I'm going through this rather quickly, but like I said, this can keep you busy for hours. And then, under space, there's one, artificial intelligence and robotics. And if we go into that one, then it starts getting interesting. Intelligence augmentation. But there's again, human enhancement. So it shows you.
It's on many
Yes.
subcategories.
So you've got space conflict linked with artificial intelligence and robotics, and then there's also again human enhancement. So they link all these things
The
together.
human enhancement I found particularly fascinating.
Exactly. If you look then at the sub-menus under human enhancement, you can see there.
Enhanced longevity.
Humanness and autonomy, equity and
Now-
social justice.
Can you imagine the term humanness and autonomy? That is an incredible thing. When are you autonomous as a human? When you are an individual, right?
Correct.
But what if you are subject to the common good? Must your autonomy then be curtailed for the sake of humanity?
Well, what did we read in the Jesuit
That's what the
article?
Jesuit said, right? It will have to be curtailed.
Yeah.
But continue, it gets fascinating.
Yeah. Enhanced genes.
Enhanced bodies, enhanced minds.
So yeah, that is that map, and now I can give it over to you again. And then also interesting to, if you go and do a little bit of research. So is this just on their map, or is there already?
Is the technology already available?
Yeah.
Are they working on it? Here's a very interesting article. It's a scientific article. It's a publication, and it's from the US National Library of Medicine, National Institute of Health. And they talk about nanoparticles and the effect they can have on the human genome in the future.
If you think it's a bit small, but the headline there reads non-viral gene transfection nanoparticles.
Yes, absolutely. So it's about nanoparticles. Now let's just enlarge the abstract so we can see what it says. The introduction here says gene therapy, the treatment or prevention of disease by gene transfer, is regarded by many as a potential revolution in medicine. The recently concluded Human Genome Project has substantially increased our knowledge of the molecular mechanisms of cancer and other gene-based diseases. In addition, there are genes that have been identified whose function in a living organism currently remain unknown. Those are largely controlling genes. Concurrently, changes in the number of genes were found to be associated with a variety of disorders, some of which have been identified as responsible for the onset of several human diseases. The application of gene therapy in the suppression or replacement of malfunctioning genes promises progress in understanding physiological roles of genes and in treating diseases at the genetic level. The non-viral gene transfer method will permit targeting and analyzing biological effects to specific cell tissues. Ultimately, gene therapy will translate into substantial improvements in therapeutic ratio and cure rate for a broad range of diseases which are presently untreatable or poorly managed. Now, these nanoparticles are non-viral. They are silica-based, and they contain information which directly affect the genes. Now, they're talking about disease here, but we've seen videos in this series where we talked about them, where they actually also can alter the genetics of your mind and even the genetics of your religious discernment center.
Yes.
So that you wouldn't, if you were a fundamentalist, be able to believe what you believed before, because they could suppress your genetic system.
Yes.
Now, how far along the line are they in terms of interfering with your mind so that they can actually not only modify it, enhancement they call it, but actually regulate it? Now, that's interesting.
Correct.
Now, when we look at the conspiracy theories out there, we have to make a point. Conspiracy theories, they're saying this vaccine could contain nanoparticles. This is interesting, right?
Yes.
And that these nanoparticles would then sort of create a grid whereby they can actually control you via certain radiation, particularly 5G comes to mind, etc. That's the mindset up there. Now, we're not going along with that. We're just saying that's the way it is. But the World Economic Forum webpage clearly indicates that they want to go that direction.
Yes.
Human enhancement, control of human thinking, control of what you do,
Yes.
how you do it, etc. Just to go a little bit further, here's the Neuralink project. And this comes from Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, an integrated brain-machine interface platform with thousands of channels. And this is, of course, Elon Musk and his Neuralink technology that he's been talking about. This is fascinating stuff.
Yes. Very interesting.
Here's an abstract from this article. Brain-machine interfaces hold promise for the restoration of sensory and motor function and the treatment of neurological disorders. Could it affect the way you think? But clinical BMIs have not yet been widely adopted, in part because modest channel counts have limited their potential. In this white paper, we describe Neuralink's first steps towards a scalable, high-bandwidth BMI system. We have built arrays of small and flexible electrode threads with as many as 3,072 electrodes per array distributed across 96 threads. We've also built a neurosurgical robot capable of inserting 6 threads, 192 electrodes per minute. And each thread can be individually inserted into the brain with micron precision for avoidance of surface vasculature and targeting specific brain regions. So they can target specific brain regions. Now, of course, they're telling you that this is all for medicinal purposes, and this all sounds wonderful, and people that are paraplegics will be able to walk, people that are blind, where the optic nerve is damaged, will be able to see because this technology will take over. But it goes further.
Yes.
They're even saying that you will be able to communicate almost telepathically without speaking. Now, we conjectured in a previous one that the world that is out there, the angelic world, used to be able to connect mind to mind. So the human being was also created with a tremendous capacity which has somehow been curtailed as a consequence of sin. And the devil knows this.
Yes.
And he might be wanting to bring you back to where this technology overwhelms you and you think this is the greatest thing, but at the same time he wants to control you. So let's just go into this a little bit further. Here's a video which shows us what these people are actually doing at the moment.
If someone ultimately does get a Neuralink installed, what will take place?
Well, for version 1 of the device, it would be it basically implanted in your skull. It can interface basically anywhere in your brain. So it could be something that helps cure, say, eyesight, like give you returns your eyesight, even if you've like lost your optic nerve type of thing.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Hearing, obviously. I mean, pretty much anything that it could, in principle, fix almost anything that is wrong with the brain. That's like a microcontroller in your muscle groups. You could then create a sort of a neural shunt that restores somebody who's a quadriplegic to full functionality. Like they can walk around, be normal.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So
maybe slightly better.
Slightly better?
Over time, yes.
You're going to have to cut the whole top of someone's head off and put a new top with a whole bunch of wires if you want to get, the real turbocharged version, the P100D of brain stimulation.
I mean, ultimately, if you want to go with full AI symbiosis, you'll probably want to do something like that.
Symbiosis is a scary word when it comes to AI.
It's optional.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, once you enjoy the Dr. Manhattan lifestyle, once you become a god, seems very, very unlikely you're going to want to go back to being stupid again. I mean, you literally could fundamentally change the way human beings interface with each other.
Yes.
Yes.
You wouldn't need to talk. Well,
you'd be able to interface with each other in some sort of a non-verbal, non-physical way, where you will transfer data back and forth to each other without having to actually use your mouth.
Yeah,
and make noises.
Exactly. So
I've said is like that there could be potentially a universal language that's created through computers that particularly young kids would pick up very quickly.
Yeah, I think you would, in principle, you would be able to communicate very quickly and with far more precision ideas. And language would, I'm not sure what would happen to language. But you could probably, in a situation like this, you would be able to just, it would be like, kind of like the Matrix. You want to speak a different language, no problem.
Right.
That's why it was to download the program.
So you can download the program. What programs do they want to download into your mind? Now, God communicates with humanity through the frontal lobe. And anything that impacts the frontal lobe impacts your decision-making capacity. Don't you think the devil would like to have control over your frontal lobe? What has he been using to date to get rid of the efficiency of your frontal lobe?
Television.
Music. Drugs. Music. Stimulants. Caffeine. Any one of those, cannabinoids, any one of those, anything to get your frontal lobe to be curtailed so that he can implant his way of thinking. And if that spirituality center could be affected, that would be the ultimate. That would cut out God, right?
Yeah, like you mentioned.
We just download the program.
And if you become like a god.
You become like a demon god. So those centers that you used to have in the antediluvian world, that God had to curtail because of sin. Because if you could read somebody's mind, can you imagine the chaos that would create and how it would increase sin in this world?
True.
So God eliminated that capacity so that it would not create a worse situation than we already have.
What about the antediluvian world? That's probably one of the reasons why God had to wipe out the earth.
And after the fall, there was a genetic switch. Certain things changed. The plants changed, the animals changed, their diets changed, and all of these issues. But let's continue, because we're busy with a very important thing.
Yes.
They are saying that they can change humanity. Here's a statement from the Spirit of Prophecy. Comes from letter 114 of 1903. Satan uses influence of mind on mind. Cast out of heaven, Satan set up his kingdom in this world, and ever since he has been untiringly striving to seduce human beings from their allegiance to God. That's his aim.
Mm-hmm.
He uses the same power that he used in heaven, the influence of mind on mind. That would include things like suggestion. That would include things like hypnosis. He used these techniques. Now, what if he can step it up? What if through nanoparticles he could step up the control over the human mind? Men become tempters of their fellow men. The strong corrupting sentiments of Satan are cherished, and they exert a masterly compelling power. Under the influence of these sentiments, men bind up with one another in confederacies and trade unions and secret societies. There are at work in the world agencies that God will not much longer tolerate. Any secret society must have a secret agenda,
Yes.
a buddy agenda, right? And if it is supposed to be universally effective, then that agenda must somehow be transferred to humanity. So this is the way he works. So stay away from any of such associations come out of Babylon. Mm-hmm. Now, I put this slide in because I just wanted to show that the Jesuit mindset is one mindset that has to be, according to their philosophy, transferred to all of humanity.
Yes.
And we discussed the Jesuit mindset in quite some detail. And we discussed this aspect that they have to control your thinking, that you have to give up your individuality for the sake of the common good,
Yes.
that you have to give up your individual judgment to the hierarchy of the church.
Mm-hmm.
Because according to them, and particularly the Pope, has a much better understanding than you as an individual could ever have. So he will tell you what to believe, he will tell you what to believe and how to interpret the Bible according to his way, and God is cut out of the equation. Do you think God likes that kind of philosophy?
No, definitely not.
Did God die for your freedom of choice?
Absolutely.
If God could have created us without a freedom of choice, then we would not have sinned.
Correct.
Then he would not have had to die.
Yes.
So if he had this mindset, then he would not have had to die.
No.
And there would have been no sin in the world.
No.
But you would have been a robot.
Yes.
Would you like to be a robot?
No.
Would you like to have 1,000 nanoparticles and wires in your head telling you what to do and how to react and what to believe?
No.
You wouldn't like that?
No. Not at all.
So who would you rather trust?
God.
God or the devil? Would you rather trust God, who demonstrated to all of humanity that he values your freedom of choice to the point of paying the ultimate price? I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Correct.
As far as I'm concerned.
That's dependent on your view of God. Because your view of God should be, he was loving to do that all for you.
Yes. Does God have rules?
Yes.
Would God like you to obey his rules?
Yes.
Is he going to force you?
No.
You can see in humanity that he certainly doesn't force them, right?
No.
But once they've made their choice that they do not want to adhere to a set of logical, love-imbued laws, then he says, well, then you can't be with me. So the Association of Jesuit Colleges and Universities just tells us how many universities the Jesuits have in the United States alone. We're not even talking worldwide, right? 27 universities, and all of these sentences for career enhancement and guidance. And then, of course, after 50 years, the living spirit of Vatican II and how the Jesuit education is working in the world. Now, this is just colleges and universities and schools, hundreds of schools, of course. And this mindset has to be, this Vatican II mindset has to be transferred to the whole of humanity. Now, who ran Vatican II? Who was behind it? The Jesuits.
Yes.
Who ran the First Vatican Council, which was the Council of Trent?
The Jesuits.
The Jesuits.
Yes.
I mean, this is their mindset. And then they still boast. If you go to the Jesuit alumni in Congress, they'll tell you that the United States Senate has 12 alumni from the Jesuit universities, and the House of Representatives 43. They're pretty interested in politics, right?
Yes.
And they're pretty adamant